Hi everybody, welcome back to the Fragility exhibition and events. Today we continue our journey with a student's diary. We talked about fragility of beauty, fragility of personality and language, while today we focus on fragility to protect. As you may know, Fragilità is an ongoing exhibition launched by Particle, with the gracious support of the Italian Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. My name is Benedetta, and I will moderate this conversation together with Giacomo on behalf of Culturit. Culturit is a network of university students, professors, and professionals present in 12 Italian cities. It works on actual, innovative, and high social impact projects aimed at enhancing Italian culture and the strategic industries for the Italian economy. We do so by leveraging on our network, creating connections and opportunities. This is what connects us to Particle in the end, this desire to bridge communities, close gaps. We do it through consulting projects, training and development. They do it through art, offering immersive and interactive experiences. I would also like to thank Caterina Farnia, a visual illustrator who will join us today and help us visualize better our thoughts through her sketches and illustrations. And also, we invite you to jump right into the conversation and share your thoughts through Slido. You should be able to see a QR code shortly or directly from our website. I would also like to thank the UniKL students who are joining this conversation today.
This exhibition and these talks that Particle is hosting aims at celebrating fragilities as a value. However, if we think of how we experience fragilities in our everyday life and routine, we are most likely to perceive them as something that must be protected. So we're here today to discuss why we feel the urge to protect fragilities and whether this can be good or harm to them.
Good. So you saw the QR code, but then we will surely share that again. I would get right into our conversation, welcoming again the UniKL students and welcoming them on the stage with us. And we will start with a picture directly taken from the exhibition that is hosting us. And this picture is a picture by Maria Rapicavoli. So Giacomo, you want to tell us about this picture a little bit?
Yes. As you can immediately see, there is this bell jar laying on a cloth of a cotton cloth, and underneath this bell jar, there is the shell of a snail. And I think this is this is the picture that led us to thinking about fragilities and how we must protect them and how in general we protect fragilities.
Exactly, like that's exactly what you can see, right? A fragile thing just being protected by a glass layer. So like even being, it becomes even more valuable in a sense because it's kept there. So we would start the talk playing a little game on this. So I invite you again to scan the QR code and get right into the interaction space. And we will be starting a live pool. So please scan the QR code. There we are. So we can start by asking, what would you put under a bell jar? So it should be something that you really feel you want to protect. And just think of it as like you have just one single thing you can put under this bell jar. What would that be? Okay, interesting. Family.
Yeah, this would be also my first choice, I think, especially in these difficult times. Family is something that I think all of us have to protect. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, but like the first thing that comes to my mind is something material in a way. Like I would put, I don't know, a book or a photograph, or
Mm.
what about you guys?
Actually, the word family, that the one that I put in the, like, this one. So like the reason why I put family first, because for me family is everything. No matter how far we go, the one that will be always be with us is always family. So that's the reason why I choose family. Yeah, the one that to be protected. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, I see the fragility in the sense that, I mean, I live far away from my family, and that's like a proof we have to overcome in a way.
Mhm.
Like, we have to
Yeah.
keep boundaries, we have to keep ourselves together, and that's a fragility in the end.
Yes.
Yeah, true. I can also see grandparents here, which is actually so actual in that moment. I mean, in this
Yeah.
moment in time, with this COVID pandemic going on. I mean, of course, I would also put my grandparents there to keep them sheltered. What about you, Irfan?
I myself put hopes. I think this one is a bit different. It's not a material. It is something that I really wanna shelter it. Hopes, the optimism, especially during COVID. It has been very much detrimental and sensitive. That all the hopes, all of the optimism has gone through a lot of things. Keeping my hopes up there is never the same anymore. But I just really want to keep and maintain it, just to make sure that I can go through this phase, and I will. If I pass through this phase, I can surely pass through another phase. Therefore, I really want to put that hopes, that hopes I cling on onto something that really hope that especially COVID to get better, so that I can go to see my family. I can go see my like like uh, you yourself. You want to see your parents, your grandparents. I really hope
Yeah.
that this could be a dream come true. That the COVID will end and we all can get back to normal soon.
Absolutely. Like, connecting to that, probably right now, I would put my life before COVID under that glass.
Mm.
So, like, my routine, all the things I used to do, I used to experience, all the relationships I used to have, like social relationships, and the people and the experiences and traveling. Like, right now, I totally agree with you, and that's connected to hopes. Like, if I could, I would just go back in time, take that period of my life, and just put it under this shelter
Yeah, I think
forever, or at least for uh, as long as it's necessary.
yeah, I think that's a shared feeling. Like even just going out with your friends, it used to be a normal thing. While nowadays everything is so different from how it used to be. So I agree. I would put my old life underneath the bell jar too.
Yeah. Yeah, and looking at Slido again, someone said nature, right? Also, nature is so fragile. Uh,
Mm.
but I was wondering, is that fragile in itself, or do we make fragile? Do we make nature fragile in the end?
Well, I guess that in
That
general, no, no, go.
I mean, that's actually a good question. Yeah, nature itself is very fragile. We make it even fragile than what it is. Putting it inside a glass jar, that is also a fragile thing. Just says that we are protecting something fragile, and we are also ensuring that fragile is not no longer fragile. So yeah, I think nature is something that, especially nowadays, what we can see, there's a lot of development going on. It's definitely something scary to see that nature's currently depleting and depleting. So it is something that we need to take care of, and that this fragile fragility is something that mm, should no longer be fragile. In fact, that nature should be something that is contained and kept rather than making it even fragile than before. So yeah, Giacomo, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Giacomo, what were you saying? Yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
agree with you. I think that in general nature it's fragile, but at the same time it's quite resilient. It has its cycles, so it works in a certain way. And usually when humans try to force it to do something that it's not used to do, for example, or destroys it, then I think humanity makes it more fragile. As for the Amazonian forest, or for all the South and North Pole, for example, which we are like destroying all these environments and habitats for these particular species, making everything more fragile. Like the ice is thinning, and all these other things are happening. So I think that we contribute a lot to make things much more fragile than they used to be.
Yeah, I feel that the ice example is so good in the terms that ice is so fragile itself. Like if you think of ice, I think of it like melting down and being very fragile to heal and so on. But then like the North Pole and so on, it's fragile because of global warming, and global warming is not something natural itself, it's something that we're causing. So actually ice is something that is fragile but belongs to a certain cycle of nature, that it's like cyclical, so it's not a fragility in the end, it's just like the way it is, the way it works. But then we make it we push that fragility until we break that fragility. Yeah. So a question that I can think of from all these ideas that came up is, so why do we in the end protect fragilities? Like, is it because we think they're valuable, we think they're precious, and we want like to protect them and to preserve them forever? Or is it because we think that something fragile is weak and deserves protection in a way? We actually have a pool for that, so we could use the pool at the beginning. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
So here it is. So why do we protect fragility? Because fragility is precious and we want to preserve it, or because it's weak and deserves protection? Let's see. So 50-50. It is 50-50 indeed. Okay, that's interesting, because that's exactly a kind of, let's say, a discussion I had with Giacomo in preparing this talk, and we were like, how is it? Is it fragile and precious, or is it fragile and weak? And we see that actually we have quite a balanced opinion even from the public.
Yes, we couldn't reach a conclusion, like a final decision, actually, if I remember correctly. We kept discussing this.
Exactly. So Noor, just share your thoughts on that. What would you say?
For me, I choose like I protect fragile because it's precious and I want to preserve it. Because for me, if you think that something that you want to protect is very weak, that doesn't mean that you don't stand for it. But I choose it to be like because it's precious. You do something because you love it. Like for example, you protect nature. Why you protect nature? Because you think it's precious for you. You love it. Every day, everyone love nature. Like if we work too hard to during our beside weekends, we must find something that to to release our stress, to what to relax. We want to have that kind of chill session. So we must protect this kind of things that is precious, so that we can always so that we can preserve and we can use it in the future. Yeah, that doesn't mean like because you for me the term weak is still inside the precious. First, why we want to protect it, because it's weak, and then for of course it's precious. For me, like if you value something more, we can see good side of them. So yeah, so I think is I want to preserve, I want to protect something because it's precious, and I want to preserve them. Yeah.
And what about you, for example, Irfan?
Yeah, I mean, like seeing Noor saying how precious it is. Looking at her bag, she has pictures of her memories at her bag. Definitely
Yeah.
shows how precious it is. Fragility.
Yeah.
So I myself, I think it's both 50-50. I think the fragile is also weak, hence why it is precious. I think that the weakness that makes it even precious, we need to protect the weakness that we have. I think in myself, if I were to say an experience doing, I'm also, let's say, I'm here in Malaysia in my campus of UniKL. I'm the president for the Student Representative Council. So me myself handling the task of making decision has never been easy, especially trying to make sure that I follow other people's opinions and I make sure that everyone feels happy with my decision has never been easy. So that decision is something that I have to deal with, and that is my weakness, and that is very fragile. That I really want to protect. That my decision is something that is weak, but instead that weakness is not something that should be undermined, but that weakness is also something that I should take care even more. That yeah, it's very precious that I do the decision and so on, just to make sure that every single committee of my members feels happy. So yeah, it is both weak and precious. That's for me. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, what you said is really interesting because that brought up like another aspect that we thought of, which is, as you said, you're in charge of some people, and you take decision for those people for their good, for the best. I mean, you think, of course, in your opinion, but like you really commit to preserve them, etc. And I was wondering with Giacomo, but who gives you or anyone else like the right to step in and protect the fragility? Let me explain myself better. Like we were discussing and we were saying, everything is fragile in a way. Fragility must be preserved as it is, so it's a value and it's precious. But and society continuously faces fragility, and in your like personal life, in your social life. And we got to the idea that actually the state or the government or whoever is in charge of some people has the, in a way, we at least we believe has the duty to protect those fragilities. But as we know, like the span of attention is limited, so you can't deal at the same time with the nature, environmental issues, with human rights, with minorities, and so on. So, I mean, my question is not really a question. Like, I'd really like to hear from you what you think, also from your experience. But my point is that is it right that the state steps in to protect a minority? When should that happen? How should that be dealt with for the good of that? I mean, fragility. Can you see my point?
Yeah, I think let's say if we were to put it in an example that the state should actually interfere and should actually play the role of the voice of those minorities, especially knowing the fact that these minorities, or I just want to say in general, minorities of certain race, minority of certain ethnics, that these kind of people, they need their voices to be put out. So coming from minorities, it wouldn't be easy to put out your voice. Therefore, state need to interfere to just to make sure that their fragility should be pointed out. Their fragility should be voiced out so that people understand that their fragility is something that is big as those majority. And this is something that should be normalized because everyone needs to understand that minorities have problems, that the majorities have problems, that their fragility, their fragile matters the same as the majority. Yeah, I think that's the big part that I can understand from your point, that the state need to have a very good check and balance, need to make sure that they are representing the minorities well, so that the minorities can get their voice heard and understand. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just add an example from the Italian side before I pass the word to Noor. We already briefly discussed it before the live, but I think that really makes my point. We used to have asylums in Italy, and then and if you think of it, that was a way to, let's say, protect a fragility, which was like mental illness, and then all of a sudden, the government passed this law that banned asylums, because, of course, asylums was a very, strong way to deal with illnesses. If you dealt with mental illnesses, you were straight away put in this asylum, and you were supposed to spend there your life. And all of a sudden, the perspective changes, and like keeping it as a fragility, the government just switched the perspective and say, okay, of course it's an illness, of course we have to deal with it, but it's not that, like, that was not the correct way. That was making that fragility more fragile. So we should instead ban that, and take a completely new approach in dealing with this fragility. And all of a sudden, in my experience, in my perspective, that fragility was elevated in a way to something not that fragile, not a taboo anymore. You see what I mean? Please, Noor, if you have anything to share, just go ahead.
Oh, as for me, like Irfan said, we should be the one who voice out the minority's thought. It's not even the minority, even the majority, because I think the minority, they feel small because the means of minority or just protest small. So like, why don't we, that the one that have the courage, the one that has power, we should protect them. We should the one who preserve them. For like example, the children that has been abandoned. Why, like, I think like in Malaysia we have this orphanage house for the students. Sorry, for the kids, for the children to stay there. At least their welfare will be protected by the government, by NGOs and others. So I think minority should be protected, but at the same way, like we must protect their emotion, because I think either minority or majority, everyone has our own emotion. We're not robots, right? Like we have emotion, so like we must um deal with those emotion. We must protect them. So yeah, I think like if we are the majority, we must protect the minority. If we are the minority, we also have to protect the majority. From that, we can be unite. From that, there will be like no misunderstanding and stuff. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah, actually, it's something that I believe the modern states are doing quite well, much more than it used to be in the past, because trying to understand different people, different culture is something that a state should do. Because at the beginning, I think most of the states were formed just to protect people in general, while now society is improving, it's going forward, and we are trying to protect more people in a better way. So I think that understanding each other is it's an important way to protect everyone, minorities, majorities, in general, in the best possible way, actually.
Yeah, and I really liked Noura's point on that. So it's not, of course, the state, the government, the authority of a country can help, can trigger that, like the, how would you say, like the authentication of a certain movement. But then it's the majority, or at least the opposite part. So either the minority or the majority that has to stand up for that value, for that fragility, and really make his voice heard in a way, right? Like what happened with Black Lives Matter, like what happened with the like the Giacomo, can you help me on that? LGBT plus community, and that's really great developments we're making as a society. Yeah, let me move on. I would share the Slido code again, just to make sure that the audience has that. And I launch a new pool, trying to move forward with this very interesting conversation. So I'll just let people scan the code for a few seconds. Yeah, and we go on with the next question. So we said that we try to protect fragilities. We want to protect fragility. We do our best to do that. But there's also the opposite view. So do we apply excessive effort in doing so or not? Just let us know through the pools. Okay, interesting. Giacomo, do you want to introduce a little bit this topic?
Yes. So while Benedetta and I were discussing in general fragilities, as we said before, who gives the right to protect the fragility, and why do we in general do it? Is it always right, therefore, to protect them? I personally believe that even though protecting them in general it's an important topic, sometimes we overprotect them, making them even weaker than they used to be before. And sometimes we do not allow a fragility to maybe develop and become something stronger, while just by protecting it. For example, when we put something underneath a bell jar, as we saw in the Maria Rapicavoli's picture before, we stop it in that exact moment, as if time stopped. So maybe we do not grant it the ability to develop further in something maybe beautiful or stronger. So I believe that sometimes overprotecting something is not the right choice. And maybe Benedetta, you can share your view too about this topic.
Yeah, to me it's a very personal experience. It's like when you grow up, you know, your parents sometimes try to overprotect you and try to avoid you doing any harm to yourself, any possible experience that might help you to grow. And that's like a bias in behavior, because you're trying to get the best to your children. You're trying to make them the most protected you can, and sometimes you achieve the opposite effect. You just make them grow, we say, in a like castle of glass. So like you keep them in this castle without letting them develop further. And that's a very practical example, but I think that really makes the idea of this.
Yeah, and I actually think there is a specific terminology about it. I think they're called like helicopter parenting or something like that. Was to watch about their children and try to protect them, but at the same time, I believe they do not allow them sometimes to improve or to acknowledge their abilities. And
Yeah.
Erkan, do you have something to share about this too?
Yeah, for me myself, I think the topic of like fragility, trying to protect it. I think it's such complex and depending on the situations. And as per se that Benedetta situation of a child trying to grow up, parents giving their full protection is good for them. Is what they think is good. But for you, do you need that full protection, or do you need to feel that weakness so that you can grow from that weakness even more? That's a very good point here. I think that should be pointed out even better because, as what we mentioned, as what we talked earlier, in regards to state of mind, in regards to state taking actions towards paying actions, giving out voices. There are times that state do not play any role in terms of that. That the state feels like there is no justification needed to do so. It's because maybe that they have other reasoning that people need to see it on themselves and people need to prove that they really need their voice they really need their voice to be matter out, to be talked about. And yeah, I mean, excessive effort really do, I wouldn't say that excessive effort is actually bad, but it really do helps in terms of uh, in terms of you know especially me myself, when I was about to do a decision that requires a really really big effort and I do not feel confident about doing that decision. I really need someone to give, or not only someone, I really need a lot of people to confirm to me and say that, Irfan, the decision that you are doing is actually very good. Do not feel bad about doing it, because that's, if we that they will still support me nevertheless of what decision that I make. That excessive effort from them coming to cheer me up, coming to tell me, coming to comfort me that the decision that I did is something that is great, although there are bad terms with it. And doing something fragility, there are goods to it, there are bads to it. Protecting them, there are goods to it and there are bads to it. It's depending on us how far we are willing to take it in terms of how good it is or how bad it is. Yeah. So hmm.
Nur, do you have anything to add from your experience?
I think yes, like you said before, like we shouldn't be overprotective. I mean, like overprotective is not something bad, but being too much like overprotective for me is not something that I like. Like if someone, for example, if I'm having a relationship with a boy that is very overprotective, I refer to back off because I need to have my own life. It's just like it's right that I have relationship with him. He can controls me, not everything he can controls me, because even my parents doesn't control myself like he did to me. So yeah, that's me. Like protective is good, but being excessive, like being too much of protect is not good because it will hurt the person back. So the one that always be cheerful, like be happy, then because of this kind of overprotective, it will make us worse. I think that will like I said, it will relate to our mental health, because maybe if after this I want to have any relationship with other guy, I would be afraid because I think like this guy, like I would have this kind of mentality like this guy is going to be overprotective like before, because I have that kind of mindset that, oh, I don't like this kind, like this. So it would be bad for me because I couldn't expand my connection with others. Even it will make me timid or whatsoever. Which, yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, exactly. As you say, the risk is that you're doing, you're trying to doing good to protect, but this excessive protection does harm. And I actually have a story, like a story about that that really takes the point. That I don't know if you know, but when plastic bags were invented, they were invented to prevent the use of paper bags. So prevent the use of paper bags in order to protect the forests and avoid deforestation and all those kind of issues. And then what we obtained was the exact opposite. Like we even increased the harm we were doing to our planet, you know. And that's exactly the point. Like you do something, you think it's great, you're actually doing that for the best of everyone, and all of a sudden you realize it's just the opposite, and you've increased the harm you're doing.
Yeah, I agree, but actually you never know. I mean, he had good intentions, so in general, I think that protecting things is a good thing to do, but you never know what is gonna be the consequence of your actions. So yeah, it's quite difficult.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that the line between good and right on this matter, it's quite thin because you never know what is gonna happen in the future, what are gonna be the consequences.
of course. Yeah, but that's exactly that message. So that sometimes some fragilities just need to uh, live their life, go with the flow, and see what where they're going. I mean, of course, this is not like the perfect example, because it was the human beings that were already doing harm, and they were trying to fix that in doing more harm. But that's the idea in the end. And I would also get this chance to thank Caterina for these wonderful drawings that are accompanying us through the way. Good. So I don't know if you guys have anything to share on this. Otherwise, we can just trigger a last conclusion on this. And okay, Giacomo, go ahead and let's just go towards the finish line.
So actually, if we go back to Maria Rapicavoli's picture that we showed at the beginning, um, if
Yeah, it's
you
coming.
okay, if you look at it, at the beginning we said that it's a bell jar, but actually it's a broken glass. So in this picture, you're protecting something which is fragile. So the shell of a snail, which is quite fragile. In fact, it is even broken here, with something that is fragile too, because it's a broken glass, and glass it's a rather fragile material, I think. So I think this idea connects really well with what we just said. So sometimes overprotecting something uh, is not a good idea, because at the end you keep protecting something and protecting what you used to protect the first thing. So it's like you put something in a box and then you put that box in something else, and you keep going and it never ends. So sometimes it's just better to leave the fragile, beautiful things as they are, and appreciate, I believe, their beauty and their fragilities as they are.
Exactly. I really think that it just shows the nonsense of forcing the protection of something fragile, just using something which is fragile itself. Have you guys anything to add? Otherwise, we can just thank you for your time and your precious contribution.
Yeah, maybe I can chip on a bit, in terms of like fragility. We go back to the main topic of fragility, especially in our daily life, right? So do we really want to protect the fragility? Is it actually necessary? So it really do depend on us, whether we want to take it a step further. We just want to take it even serious to protect the fragility even more, or do we want to take the leap of faith of not protecting the fragility so that we can see from a different side, from a different perspective? Let's see how well we can handle our fragility. Let's put it as an example of our weaknesses. You know, my weaknesses of public speaking, my weaknesses of talking with you guys, a new person that I've never met before. It is something. It is a leap of faith from me. I think it's for me. I'm willing to not protect my fragility to see a new horizon behind it. And it definitely proves the fact that my fragility is what I think is fragile. But instead, it's not. It is something that I have to fix the fragility to make sure that it's even stronger than what it is. That fragile for me basically means something, a hole that I need to fill in with my own braveness, my bravery, so that I can fill in the hole and make it a very straight line and without any gaps anymore, so that I would feel even better. So yeah, I think it will depend on that person whether you are willing, whether you want to protect your fragility, or you are willing to accept and willing to take that leap of faith, going further and not protect your fragility. At the end of the day, both of it has its pros and cons, and you have to accept the trade-off that comes with it. Yeah. You want to add on?
Maybe just a little bit because I think you find concludes everything. For me, even you are in minority or majority, you can protect the fragile. For me, fragility means a lot as we talked before, as we discussed before. There's a lot you want to protect, right? Okay, for example, if you have someone that has depression or not, I think if you approach that person, if you have a chit chat of that with that person, I think that's something like fragility that you protect. That the move maybe seems small, but the impact is very big. At least you be the one who talk to him or her. So at least you're the one who makes him or her happy. For me, fragility is neither to be protected or because you see either you see is because it is weak or it is protect. But as Ifan said, everything in this world has its own pros and cons. So like at least we try our best to protect it, although it's just small thing, but it has a very big impact. So yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you so much, guys. This has been amazing. Great contributions and insights. I'm very happy. Let me just thank again Caterina for all her effort in drawing for us. And again, thank you to Irfin and Noor for being here and for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, guys. Goodbye, everyone. Oh, go ahead, Caterina. Sorry.
No. I was thinking that our fragilities make us stronger, and sometimes we don't need protection because we must overcome our difficulties, our fragilities by ourselves. Yes.
Yeah,
alone.
absolutely.
We
I
cannot.
absolutely agree. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.